I think it's kind of funny that you worked with Brando, De Niro, and Pacino,
The
all three
Godfathers.
Godfathers. Who else can say that? I don't think anybody can.
Yeah, right? I don't know. I feel incredibly blessed that I got to work with not just the Godfathers, but just these amazing actors that are iconic as well. I I I don't know what happened. I just feel very lucky because I admired them so much, and to get to kind of get to be in a room with them, let alone play opposite them. It's like, the what people say is when you're playing with a great tennis player, it just
Makes
ups
you
your
that
game.
much better, yeah. Was it intimidating?
Well, I'd say at first maybe, especially Brando. I think no one knew what to expect with Brando, but when we first met him, we were in Toronto, and we were in the director Andrew Bergman's condo that he'd rented because we were filming there, and we were going to have a read through, and just Brando showing up at all was that even going to happen? Because he really wasn't. He was kind of semi-retired. He really wasn't working that much. And so even I actually have an interesting story. I had agents at the time who were trying to persuade me not to do The Freshman because they didn't think Brando would show up to make the movie. And I was offered another movie called Johnny Handsome. And they wanted me to do that because they thought that was more of the sure thing. So I was like, I think I'm going to take my chances. If there's a chance I can work with Brando, I think I'm going to hedge my bets on that one. And I called Matthew Broderick because I'd worked with him in Biloxi Blues. And I said, do you think Marlon's going to show up? And he said, well, they have pictures of them and the producers in Tahiti with their arms around him. And he's, all. And so he was all in. And then anyway, he shows up in Toronto. He's like an hour late. And Bruno Kirby was like in the lobby waiting with like a fedora hat on and a newspaper, like a detective would be like, Brando's in the room, Brando's in the house. Like he's walked in, he's entered the building. Anyway, we were just filled with nerves and anticipation. And he came in, and I kid you not, he was in a powder blue velour jumpsuit. And I was just like, whoa, not how I imagined him. And he came in just all smiles and giggles and laughing, and he said, oh, my daughter, and he gives me this big bear hug, and I think he might have fractured a couple ribs. And he was
hugging you, or before then?
Yeah, when he hugged me, I was just like, ah. But anyway, I don't want to even go to the story, but I already was sensitive in that area because I'd had this really bad coughing thing when I was in Our Town on Broadway, and I think he refractured. He didn't actually do the fracturing from coughing so much. Terrible story, but anyway, he was delightful. He was funny. He was charming. He was playful. He was a prankster. He loved the fact that he was parroting his role from The Godfather. We had a great time, and he loved actors, and he loved the crew. Not so much the executives. Like there was one night we were having dinner at Orso's, which is a nice restaurant in Toronto that they have in New York as well. And Matthew and Bruno and I were having dinner at a table, and all of a sudden we feel these pellets like hitting us in the back of our head, and we see these bread balls, and we turn around, and there's Marlon sitting with the gaffers and the grips having dinner at this fancy restaurant and throwing bread balls at us. And we were like, wow. And those are the people he wanted to hang out with. It was the everyman.
Could you feel any of the aura he had about him in terms of being an actor? I mean, he's one of those people where you say his name in certain circles, and it's like,
yeah. Well, he probably didn't see himself that way, nor does I think anyone, unless, I don't know, maybe a Queen of England or something. But I just feel like I don't think he walks around thinking, oh, he's Hollywood royalty or acting royalty. It was actually pretty funny because one time he invited us into his trailer, and he was on some fruit drive. Would you like some fruit? And, and Bruno and Matthew and I are sitting in his trailer, and he says, he's trying to give us some advice. And he says, you got to trust your instincts as an actor. Always trust your instincts. I was doing this movie called, I don't know if you know it, it's called On the Waterfront. We were like,
I don't know if you know it.
yeah, yeah, because he thought we were youngsters, and why would we have seen a black and white film, from the 50s, whatever. So we were like, yeah, we've seen it. I mean, any actor with their grain of salt has seen that movie, right?
Right.
But he didn't think about it that way, and he didn't know. So he's saying, I had a scene in a taxi cab, and we're like, yeah, that's the most famous scene in the movie. And he says, and my brother is sent by his boss to threaten me, and he says he's going to kill me. And, Elia Kazan, the director, and, yes, we know he is. I mean, the whole thing was just hysterical because we're like, our jaws are dropping. They're knocking on the door going, ready on the set, ready on the set. We're like, give us a minute. Just let him finish the story. So then he says, yeah, and Elia wants me kind of to be mad and scared of my brother and mad at him and everything. And he said, I don't know if I should be scared or mad. I think I would feel it was more sad and pathetic. And he said, but I had a therapy appointment at 5, so he had to cut out. And I don't know if you know this, but he was gone for Rod Steiger's Off Camera. I don't know if you know this.
Oh, I don't. There was a movie in which he was quite difficult with another actor. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
But I think Rod never let him down, but he left before he got to do his reverse. Oh. But he had a standing 5 o'clock therapy appointment, and he didn't want to miss it. And anyway, so they only had time to do 2 takes with Marlon. So Elia said, we'll do one your way, one my way. And then, of course, the way it ends up in the movie is, obviously so brilliant, but it was like, Charlie, I could have been somebody. I could have been a contender. It's, an incredible line. But, just the way in which he played it with such pathos and such sadness and such hurt, and not the way that Elia, I guess, wanted him to do it. And those were his instincts. So he was just relaying to us, not fight with your director all the time, but just if you have an instinct,
right,
use it. And stand up for it. And so, but it was interesting because of all the movies and of all the scenes and, the story that he's going to share with us was incredible.
I could have been somebody.
I could have been somebody. Yeah, it was you, Charlie. It was you. It's so sad, but beautiful.